Chapter 8. Dink's jeans were nearly dry by the time they reached the hotel. Mavis was waiting out front. "How was your lunch?" she asked timidly. "Fine, thanks," Dink said. We talked it over and we think there's something fishy going on the third floor of this hotel." And suddenly Mavis began coughing. She held up her scarf in front of her mouth. Dink noticed that the letters on her scarf were tiny M's. "Are you okay?" he asked. "Should I run and get you some water?" asked Josh. Mavis took off her glasses and shook her head. "No, I'm fine, thank you. Dear me, I don't know what happened. Now, what were you saying about what happened on the third floor?" "We think Wallace may be up there," Ruth Rose said. She reminded Mavis about the smudged signature on room 302 and the Do Not Disturb sign on the door. Mavis replaced her eyeglasses. "Mercy, what do you think we should do?" "Follow me," Dink said. What do you think we should do?" "Follow me," Dink said, just for a second time. They all trooped into the hotel lobby. Mr. Linklater watched them from behind the counter. "Hi," Dink said. "Remember us?" "Vividly," Mr. Linklater said. Wallace checked into 303, right?" "That is correct," said Mr. Linklater. "Well, we talked to the maid who cleaned the room," Dink went on. "She told us no one slept in it." "You spoke to Olivia Nugent? When? How?" "We have our ways," Josh said. "So," Dink went on, "we think Wallace disappeared right here in this hotel." "And Wallace is a very famous writer," Ruth Rose reminded Mr. Linklater. "Millions of kids are waiting to read his next book," she added sweetly. Mr. Linklater's sad eyes grew large. He swallowed, and his Adam's apple bobbed up and down. He rubbed his forehead as though he had a headache. Well, that sounds real suspicious to me. Huge clue there. Then Dink told Mr. Linklater about room 302. Miss Nugent said that there was a Do Not Disturb sign on the door. Ruth Rose pointed to the register. "See? The signature's smudged." "We think the kidnappers are hiding Wallace in that room," Josh said. At the word kidnappers, Mr. Linklater closed his eyes. He opened a drawer, took out a bottle of headache pills, and put one on his tongue. "Just to be on the safe side, perhaps we should check out both rooms, Mr. Linklater," Mavis said quietly. "It'll take just a minute," Dink said. Mr. Linklater let out a big sigh. "Oh, very well. But this is most unusual. Things run very smoothly at the Shangri-La." They all got to the elevator and no one spoke. Dink watched Mr. Linklater jiggling a bunch of keys. Mr. Linklater kept his eyes on a little narrow, telling them which floor they were on. The elevator door opened on the third floor. Mr. Linklater unlocked room 303. "Most unusual," he muttered. The room was empty and spotlessly clean. "Strange, very strange," Mr. Linklater said. They moved to room 302, where the Do Not Disturb sign still hung on the doorknob. Mr. Linklater knocked. They all leaned toward the door. "Listen, I hear a voice," Josh said. "Well, what's it saying?" Ruth Rose asked. They all heard it. The voice was muffled, but it was definitely yelling, "Help! Help!" Chapter 9. Mr. Linklater unlocked the door and shoved it open. A man with curly blonde hair stared back at them. He was sitting in a chair with his feet tied in front of him, and his arms were tied behind his back. A towel was wrapped around his mouth. "Oh my goodness!" Mr. Linklater cried. Everyone rushed into the room, and Dink ran behind the chair to untie the man's hands while Josh untied his feet. Mavis unwrapped the towel around his face. "Oh, thank goodness you got here," the man said. "I'm Wallace. Someone knocked on my door last night, and a voice said he was from room service, and when I opened the door, 2 men dragged me in here and tied me up." He looked at Dink. "You're Dink Duncan. I recognize you from the picture you sent. How did you find me?" "We followed your itinerary," Dink said. He showed Mr. Wallace the sheet of paper. "We got it from Mr. Paskey and used it as a trail. The trail led us right to this room." "I'm so sorry I missed the book signing," Wallace said. And as you can see, I was a bit tied up. He smiled and then rubbed his jaw. Oh, my mouth is sore from that towel. I can't believe I was kidnapped, and I can't wait to get back to my safe little cottage in Maine. Well, can you describe the two guys who kidnapped you? Dink asked. We should tell Officer Falcon so he can try to find them. Wallace stared at Dink. The two guys? Well, I don't think I'll, Hey, Ruth Rose suddenly yelled. Everyone looked at her. What's the matter, Dink? You looked funny, Ruth Rose. Ruth Rose was staring at the red scarf draped around Mavis's neck. She pointed at the man who'd been tied up. You're not Wallace. Then she looked at Mavis Green. You are, she said quietly. And that is the end of chapter 9. What a bang of a chapter. Ruth Rose is accusing Mavis Green of being Wallace, not this blonde guy that got tied up. All right, so this would be a good time to make some predictions on how you think that this story will end, because chapter 10 is the last chapter. All right.